They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Dead Air, a horror podcast.
Brought to you by Big Baby Studios.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dead Air, a horror podcast. Before we start the episode, I'd like everybody to please check out the description of this episode and subscribe to this podcast. Why check out the description? Because we have affiliate links that you can use to help support this podcast and keep us afloat, so we can enjoy it, by
make
paying
us
us. Yeah, make us rich. So today's
expenses.
Yes, we do. We have lives and expenses. And today's episode is going to be very interesting. It's an interesting film. That's my adjective for this one. And I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Arian and I'm one of the hosts. And I'm the one who likes horror films because of how they make me feel, because of the thrill. I like the scares. I actually like having to stay up at night because I'm so scared. I like scaring myself like that. But I didn't go to film school, so I'm not a connoisseur of films and directors, unlike my two other co-hosts of film schools. So,
Why do I feel we're being mocked?
We get this every week.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get mocked every week.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
It's fine.
I guess I'm the opposite of Aaron. Hi, I'm Miguel, who is the opposite of Aaron. I am horror hesitant. I love film, but I try to avoid horror as much as possible. But thanks to this podcast, I'm now good with horror.
Oh.
Nice. I'm Chris. I'm the third host. I'd say I'm the horror lifer. I'm obsessed with it. It's my favorite genre, and it creeps my wife the fuck out.
Yes.
All right.
Love that. And our guest for today is a multimedia artist and editor whose work has appeared in Vice, CNN, and Munchies and other things. But more importantly, she has a personal connection to both me and Miguel and not Chris. That is a very important
And
detail.
not Chris.
And not
Chris
Chris.
is a stranger.
This is the first time. Mhm. Yes.
Stranger
I've
danger.
known her.
Chris Costello.
It's so weird. You were so young when I met you.
I know.
Aaron.
I was
Tita
probably- Yeah, legit. Tita Aaron. It's
Legit.
crazy. I was probably I don't even know. You might have known me since I was 5 or something.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Really, really, really young, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Sai Villafuerte. Hey, Sai.
Hello.
Hi, Sai.
Guys, thanks for
coming on.
me.
Thanks for coming
Yeah. Welcome
Thank you.
to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here. How are you doing? Let's start with that.
I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. This pandemic has given me a lot of time to actually pursue the creative stuff that I've been wanting to do. I've seen a lot of horror films. I did a lot of catching up during the pandemic. 2020, there was a month, I think the month of August 2020, where I watched 21 films in a month, and some of them would be 3 films in a day. And also this year, August 2020, for some reason, I just watched a lot of movies. So I caught up with a lot of movies, and a lot of them were horror movies, because it's actually my favorite genre. So yeah, I've been good, all things considered. I'm very creatively fulfilled.
That's good to hear. So I want to ask, because you really binged on horror movies, if you could tell us your horror origin, when was the first instance you realized that, I love horror?
Okay, I tell this to all my friends because it's such a core memory that I will never forget. Awesome. But my mom is really the reason why I started getting into horror films. And it's almost as if it's it's funny because she loves to laugh about it. But when I was a kid, I was just horrified. Why are you telling me this? And there was a really core memory when I was 5 years old. And those, early 2000s when the internet was still new, there were these jump scare internet flash games. And my mom was like, hey, Sai, check this out. I'm 5 years old. And the game was you had to look at a picture and the picture would change each time, and it would ask you like, what's changed? And then there's like a multiple choice, like, oh, there's no more vase, there are no more flowers, etc. And then the last one is like, parang it's harder to pinpoint what has changed. And then bigla Reagan's face from The Exorcist like pops up, screaming, and I'm like so close to the I'm so close to the screen, and I, of course, like, I freaked the fuck out. I was just like, oh my god, like, why did you show me this? Like, who is that? And my mom's like, oh, it's this girl from The Exorcist. Like, I really like
as
the
if
movie.
That would make it any better. Oh, it's just the girl from The Exorcist.
Yeah, and she was like, yeah, it's this girl from The Exorcist. Like, it's a really good movie. We should watch it. I'm just like, oh, I'm too distracted by this thing. And like from then on until I was about 13 years old, I was just like really mustering the courage to watch The Exorcist. And my mom's like, it's not even scary. You know what? Like, I thought it was scary before. And I just learned to look at like the mistakes that they made in the film. Like, apparently Reagan's face, like the makeup that she was wearing on her face, parang from the neck down, it was obvious that they didn't put any makeup there. It's like, oh, you see, it's not that scary. And then things like that. I'm just like, oh my God, like, Mom, thanks though. But I ended up watching it when I was 13 and freaked the fuck out still. And it was only until recently where I thought like, okay, it's not too bad. I had to watch it like maybe X amount of times. And then from there, I just kind of kept going. I feel like my love for horror was just me trying to overcome that trauma from when I was a kid, which was to watch more horror films. And then from there, I think the second film in my horror origin story was probably The Shining, which was also recommended by my mom. And yeah, like I said, from there, it just kept going. And August 2020, August 2021, like I caught up with a lot of horror films, and here we are.
Yeah. Very interesting that you chose a movie from 2002. Very interesting, very interesting.
Why do you say that?
Wala lang.
2002.
Wala lang. Like, diba, usually when people pick, if people really love horror, they choose like the old classics.
You're right.
Or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's either the spectrum is either the classics or like the new stuff.
Yeah. And this is a 2002 horror film.
That's true.
That's not like the 2002 horror films that we've been watching, like Drag Me to Hell. Like, it's not like that at all.
Yeah. It's not like that at all, but this is definitely the most horrifying movie that we are going to feature on the show.
God. Oh my
Honestly,
God.
To be honest, I don't even know, like if you go on Wikipedia, they call it a psychological thriller drama. And like maybe we can talk about this later about like what makes a horror film. Is this a horror film? To me, it is because it's fucking horrifying.
Yep.
But there's this whole argument about like, is Irreversible a horror film when it actually depicts a lot of real shit? So yeah, we can talk about that later.
Awesome.
We can talk about that now, actually.
Yeah, we could. Let's go with the second. Let's go with the second question then. Let's formally do this. What movie did you bring for us today, and why did you choose it?
So I chose Irreversible from 2002 by Gaspar Noe, and I'm really passionate about this film. It's like it's one of my favorite films. It's probably in my top 5. If not the first, like the second. I have a tattoo of Time Destroys Everything on my arm. So I really love this movie, and it's hard for me to recommend it to... Well, actually, it's very easy for me to recommend it to people, but obviously it's not the obvious bid that you would give to people when you say, like, what's your favorite movie? What should I watch today that's really good?
Yeah.
And it competes... For me, it competes with 2001. Like, Irreversible and 2001 are now, like, competing for my favorite film of all time. And I think it's because, well, one, it instills this really like potent and raw emotion, which is very rare for me for a film to leave such an impression on. Yeah. And it's the type of film where when I watch, actually it's the only film that I've seen where I thought, like, I'm so scared to go back to reality because whatever happened here could happen to me. It could happen to anyone. And it makes me fear like real life. Like, this is real shit and I'm so scared. of going out
Exactly.
into the world because the world is so dangerous. And I think that's what the horror is about this movie. It's just like
Yeah.
the horror is not like a ghost. It's you. Like the horror lives in you, and that's like the most frightening thing, I think. But also at the same time, it touches on a lot of like philosophical themes that I'm genuinely interested
It
in.
does.
Like for me, when I watch movies, it's I really like acquiring that cerebral. Like I like gaining some sort of cerebral satisfaction from it, and Irreversible touches on a lot of that without doing it with crassly. It's not done with crass. I think it's really conscious about the decisions that it's made. It addresses a lot of themes that, like I said, I'm really interested in. So, I really like this movie.
Damn.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
This is going to be a fun episode.
This is going to be so fun.
I know.
This is going to
I
be
know,
so
I know.
fun.
Fun.
Well,
now
am
for
I
the
going to be the
best
first
part.
here? Am I going to be
Well,
the
no,
first
for
here?
the best part, we got the fun. We got the new fun part.
Ah, yes. Miguel, did you really watch this film?
Of course I did. Wasn't I messaging you guys while I was watching it?
Prove it.
All right, I'll do
Prove
it.
it.
I'll summarize it.
Okay.
So I think the best way I can summarize this is to
Well,
tell
also
the
you have to tell the conceit also. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the movie Irreversible. Just kidding. That's not how it's said. Irreversible is shown backwards. Like you see how everything ends. You go towards a middle, which works as a climax also, even if it's backwards. And then you see how the story begins. That is the main conceit of the movie Irreversible. And the famous quote is said in the beginning by a character from the beginning, which is the end, is said by a character from one of the director's older films. And it's also said in the beginning or at the end as a graphic, if I remember correctly. Time destroys all things. In between that, so I guess I'll tell the story chronologically, but when people watch it, they have to remember that it's backwards. So it begins with Alex, played by the wonderfully beautiful Monica Bellucci. Grabe.
Oh my God.
So she's just like
11 over 10.
11 over
this-
10.
She's this lovely Italian woman in France, just reading a book. Not time din yung theme ng book. I forget the exact title, but she's reading a book in a park and it's daytime and she's having a wonderful time. She comes home to her boyfriend, played by her actual husband then, Vincent Cassel. And parang they're in their parang post-coital scene yata yun eh. And they're just talking about, what were they talking about? The relationship. And then parang it's revealed na she's delayed. And then when Vincent Cassel leaves to run an errand, she goes to the bathroom, she gives herself a pregnancy test, and she confirms that she's pregnant. And then, I might get this wrong, but this is the gist of it. And then they meet up with a friend who is an ex of Alex.
Yeah.
So there are three persons in this movie. There are three main characters in the movie. Vincent, sorry, I'll pull up the name. I don't want to mess it up because this guy was a good actor also. Hold on, guys.
Are you relying on cheat sheets?
No, just for the name of the actors. Sorry.
Now we can't guarantee
Just
that
say
you're not
A
just
and
reading.
B.
So Albert Dupontel. I don't know how to say that in French. So anyway, Alex, Marcus, and Pierre. Three friends. Alex and Marcus are a couple. Pierre and Alex used to be a couple. Pierre and Marcus are friendly. It's so French. So they're in a subway and it's kind of like tense, but at the same time funny because they talk about their relationships. Parang Pierre talks about his relationship with Alex while the present boyfriend is present. And they have this wonderful conversation in the subway about why sex is different for men and women and why Pierre lost her as a girlfriend and why she moved over to Marcus. And then the next scene is at a party where Marcus takes too many drugs and Monica is just dancing really great. And then why? It's such a great scene. She's such a great
point.
dancer.
Yeah.
It's so
Absolutely.
mesmerizing. And then this is where the movie turns into a dark turn. Like Alex leaves the party, doesn't find her boyfriend and ex-boyfriend, couldn't find them. She leaves the party to go home by herself and makes the mistake of going through a tunnel where she witnesses a man beating up, I think, a prostitute. And then once that prostitute runs away, the man turns on Alex, rapes her, and beats her for it's a long graphic scene. It's disturbing. It's incredibly graphic and it's unnerving at the very least. And then it proceeds to. So this is where it gets kind of murky for me. But anyway, Pierre and Marcus want to avenge Alex. So they look for this club called Rectum. It's a gay bar where they find a guy who they think is the rapist, beat him up, but and then, Pierre kills the guy with a fucking fire extinguisher. Another long, grotesque, unnerving scene. Turns out it's the wrong guy. They both get beaten up, and then I think it ends with Marcus being taken out to an ambulance. And then it does a weird thing, and it shows those two guys in bed, and one guy says, "Time destroys all things." And the end. But in reverse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, how would you rate that? How would you rate that, Sai?
That is a pretty detailed synopsis.
I mean,
Very,
at one point he was reading, so
No. I just read the names, but I put off the.
I'll give him the credit.
Thank you.
There's a very short summary that the shortest summary that I've seen of this movie is basically a rape revenge film told backwards.
Yes.
So the rape scene is there, the revenge is there, but it's told backwards. But obviously, you had a lot more detail about who we were interested in the movie.
Because I saw it for the first time yesterday, and I haven't forgotten it since then.
Yo, I was watching it kanina. Holy.
Yeah.
Ooh, fresh.
Could you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
No, you first.
Well,
Sorry,
I just wanted to know. I wanted to know what the context was in which you guys saw it. Like, obviously, you had to prepare for the show, but the lead up to it, like, did you guys know what it was about? Had you guys heard of it before?
Okay.
Like, did you come into it not really knowing anything about it?
I can take that question.
Go for it, Chris.
So I had seen this a long time ago, like a really, really long time ago. So actually watching it again yesterday, I really had to just look away because I was just like, I already know what's going to happen during obviously the rape scene. Just stuff like that. I was just like, okay, it's a plot point. I already know what's going to happen. So I'll just skip over it because it's just too horrifying. But anyway, so I had seen it already. And then I pitched it to these guys. And then I had to warn them already about the number of things. Number one, trigger warning, brutal rape scene. And also you have to watch it knowing that this is a film told in reverse. Because if you go into it without knowing that, it's so difficult to follow. So you really have to be very attentive at the beginning to follow like simple things, just characters' names and stuff that happens in the second scene. And then that will, if you just follow that logically, then you'll understand the story a little easier. No? Because I remember watching it the first time and I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I had no idea what's going on. I saw it and I had no idea it was in reverse. I had no idea. And then I was like, what the fuck is this art film? Like, it's just like an assault on all senses. Like, the camera's going fucking everywhere. It starts off with a guy who admits that he raped his daughter. And I'm just like, what's happening? Like, I don't understand. Yeah. I just don't understand. It took me so long to realize that it was in reverse. Like one scene, the ending scene is supposed to lead into the one right before that and so on and so forth. So that's how I kind of told Aaron and Miguel to kind of know about that. So how did you guys take the knowing that? How did you guys take the movie?
I'll go. I knew about this movie. I knew about the conceit. I knew why this movie was why it was infamous or notorious. I knew, but I've never seen it and I didn't know the details. But I knew that there was a gratuitous, long, graphic rape scene. Yun lang naman. So I also knew it was in reverse. So I saw it for the first time yesterday. And then I wouldn't say struggled through it because it was unwatchable, but struggled through it because it was really painful and difficult to watch. Pero parang, I wrote down notes while watching it, which I guess we'll go on later. But yun, first time ko yesterday and indelible siya in my mind now.
Yeah.
So I was listening. Sorry, Aaron. I just want to I want to ask a comment to Miguel. But I was listening to one of the episodes of dead air. And you were saying about how, I think it was for The Descent with Philbert, how you like movies where there's no hope for the characters, and I'll use like almost verbatim quote where you say like, you step into this abyss looking in, and you realize, shit, this is real. You have to deal with this once in a while. So how do you feel about that statement now that you've seen Irreversible?
Wow, you sounded so profound there, Miguel.
I know. I'm thankful of all the things you listened to. Sai, that was it. And of all the stupid shit I've said on this podcast, you remembered that one thing. Because also, that's the reason why this movie, which was hard to watch, at the end appealed to me also. It had that sense of no matter what choice you make in life, parang there's no real, it can go either way, first of all. And sometimes the way it goes is horrible. Parang you're not a bad person, you're not a good person. It's just that for no rhyme or reason, terrible shit happens. And that's the abyss that you look into. So this is a sort of movie that kind of forces you to look into that abyss also, the same way there was a literal abyss in what's that movie again? With Phil?
The Descent.
The Descent. Love that movie. So that was an actual horrifying abyss, and this is like an existential abyss talaga. Like it's so French na parang my God, parang wala silang ginawa pero they suffered so much. And then at the same time, it's consequential, but really, parang nobody here knew what they were gonna get into when they woke up that day. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Cool. Thank you. Aaron, how about you?
Oh my God, do I have a lot to say? So, first of all, while I was watching, I was already, because I'm mogulo on Telegram. I'm kalat on Telegram. I take up the most media space in our media chat because I keep sending videos and voice notes, right? So today I was watching it and I started and I was like, guys, I thought my copy was corrupted, but this is the movie pala. Okay, so all right, let's go. It's not a corrupted copy. Okay, and then the face bashing scene. That's when I started sending videos. I hate it. I hate this. I hate that. Yeah, it's so early, right? Then later on,
because you don't like gory movies, right?
Hate.
That's why
Ooh. And then, of course, the rape scene. Of course, for me, it's like I already know this can happen to me. I know it. Do I need to see it for so long? This is just it's too much. So I was sending videos na naman. I was like, guys, why is this here? Is this absolutely necessary? And I was telling them that I was watching TikTok funny videos na lang while listening to what was happening. Just like that, covering the screen once in a while, peeking because I can't. It was so painful, right? But having said all of that, I hate it. I hate how it made me feel. Having said all of that, do I think it's a bad movie? No, I do not think it's a bad movie. I hate it, but I do not think it's a bad movie. Especially with the way...
Why is that?
Well, first, one of the things I liked about it was that it ended that way. So you're not... Yes, it was graphic, and yes, the images were so awful, but because it didn't leave you... If they did it in chronological order, you would leave the theater feeling like shit. Like really just like, okay, fuck this. But it ended that way. So it didn't make it better, but at least your feeling is less than if it ended in the way it was supposed to end.
Yeah.
And another reason why I liked it, the special effects, man. It made me look away. Clearly, the special effects, however they made that face look like that.
I still don't know how they did that. The face bashing scene. Must be.
I believe there's like a featurette on that scene where they go through like the CG behind it, and I believe it was I think it was prosthetics.
It's mixed.
Like plus mix of prosthetics and mix of CG, but every time he was bashing in the fire extinguisher, that was like an opportunity to cut. And then add more gore.
Yeah, it's a cut.
So there's a bit of like an intersped thing where it's like boom, and then like some magic happens in between. But
this movie has a lot of hidden effects actually.
Yeah. I mean, even scene transitions. No, I mean like the invisible cuts.
And the acting was good. The acting was amazing. Very believable. I wanted to die while watching. It's just like, oh my God.
Well, also Vincent Cassel and Monica Bellucci are believable because they were actually together at the time.
Oh, there you go.
Gaspar Noe approached Vincent Cassel saying like, "Oh, I'm making this like erotic melodrama, rape revenge told backwards. You and Monica Bellucci want to star in it." Like I think like they were the hottest couple at the time in France, like equivalent to Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in Eyes Wide Shut. So they approached, like Gaspar approached and was like, "Do you want to do this? There's like a rape scene. Like, what do you think? I need to pay my rent." And he also wanted to fund his next film called Enter the Void. And there are a lot of similarities there. But anyway, so he approached Vincent Cassel and he was like, "Do you want to make this film?" And Vincent Cassel was like, "Nah, I'll pass. Like, sounds really ratchet. Like, I'm gonna pass." And then goes back to Monica at home. It's like, "Oh, you know what, Gaspar asked me to make this film or like pitch this film to me, and it's about a rape revenge film told backwards." And Monica was like, "Well, did you say yes?" And he was like, "No." It's like, "Well, like let's talk to him." And then they talked again, and basically the movie happened. And the script was like 3 pages long, apparently, which Gaspar does for all his films. So he tries to make it ambiguous for the producers. So I think it was like opening scene, rape scene with no indication of how long the rape scene is.
Jeez.
And then like a few details about how it ends. But he leaves it ambiguous in that way because it allows for more creative freedom. No, that's just like fun trivia.
Yeah.
But was it also was a lot of the dialogue also improvised, or was that all scripted? Especially like my favorite was in the subway scene talaga, where you're in the subway car and it's just a long take of all of them talking about their sex lives. It's weird because they're like ex-couples and shit. Pero parang ang galing lang. It reminded me a bit of the Before trilogies. Parang yung ganong klaseng like pack of dialogue. For that short scene, I mean, for that one scene, it felt like that, where people were kind of riffing off each other. I mean, feeling ko naman they had a goal in mind, but it was such a character building scene for each of them, but it kind of told you about who they all were. But at the same time, it felt so natural and interesting, that whole conversation. I was wondering lang if it was also a bit improvised.
It probably was, because like Gaspar has like a knack for that. Like with Love, I'm pretty sure a few of those conversations were improvised. And his not his latest film, but the film before his latest film called Climax, most of the cast were not actors. And I know there's a scene where they just finished their rehearsal and they're about to party, and they do this really amazing dance sequence. And after that dance sequence, they start to get drinks. And then that's when they start the dance troupe. They start talking about all the different people in the group and talking shit about one another. And apparently how Gaspar primed that was kind of gave them names and gave them characters, and it's just like, okay, you guys like pair up together. What are you guys gonna talk about? It's like, I'm this kind of character, so maybe we could like talk about that other person. Say, okay, like talk shit about that other person, and then like kind of primes his characters in that way. So I can imagine how maybe with Vincent and Monica it might have been the same. There's like okay, you guys need to talk about your sex lives. You're the ex. You're the guy that's more like, primal and less cerebral, and vice versa for the other guy. And I can imagine it was pretty improvised.
Cool.
Yeah, that intimate scene was so like realistic. You know what I mean? Of how couples are. I was taken aback a little bit. And she's so hot. little bit. And she's so hot. She's really so hot.
Grabe.
11 over 10.
11 over 10. It's crazy. I was telling the guys kanina, well, I guess I'm gay. Like 11 over 10. Done deal. Man.
She's still so beautiful up to now.
Yeah.
But like that during that period was really like the height of their career.
Prime.
Like both of them honestly, like at the height of their careers, at the height of their youth. It's amazing. It's really great.
Parang few years removed lang, Chris, si Vincent Cassel from playing that role in Ocean's 12 from this movie. Parang two years later, he was in Ocean's 12 na. Parang ganun na. Like Ocean's 12 was like 2004. Let me Google. But parang Ocean's 12 was like 2004 and this was 2002. Tama ba?
Oh, amazing.
Possible. Wow.
Ganun lang. 2005 yung Ocean's 12. Or it came out.
Still.
Yeah.
Not
so. We were getting them all in those early 2000s were like Prime, Monica, Prime Cassell. And Cassell's now with this other, parang they split up and he's with this other hot woman now. This guy fucks.
I feel like he might not be that far off from, this is just my speculation, but I feel like he might not be that far off from his character in Irreversible. Like, I think he's just really young at heart.
Yeah.
And like,
I'm sure.
Alam niya na guwapo siya.
Yeah.
I'm sure he brought a lot of himself, especially if it was like a lot of it was improvised. I mean, no, you compare it, Miguel, to like the Before trilogy. Like, you know that Ethan Hawke character is like 90% him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
if it's improvised, you have to like speak the truth, diba? I mean, you know, talk about yourself. So I bet.
Wow, you were listening to the improv. Galing. So I made these guys do improv. Galing. I remembered. Good job. Anyway, sorry.
I wanna go back to what Aaron said kanina about like the ending made it less
Heavy.
heavy. But parang for me, it was actually the reverse.
Oh.
Galing.
Because like for me, it was like more painful na parang we end with her being so hopeful and so, you know, and then but you know that she got fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's why it's this whole play on time and how you perceive it. It works so well because you're like, it ended on technically a high note, but it was the worst thing because you know what happens to her later on, you know? Like, I don't know. It really, this movie really just fucked with me.
So
it's,
now that we're talking about it, every time we watch a fucking movie, we talk about a movie, I appreciate it more. This is like...
Except Misery.
Except Misery, exactly. So, since the movie, concept movie din siya. Obviously, it's like yung conceit pa lang of being told backwards. There's a big part of the movie is the concept of it. And galing na for each of us, medyo iba-iba yung how we react to it. Like maybe for me, Sai and Chris, it was a bit more depressing because it kinda resonated nga with that whole everything is hopeless shit. Now, even if things begin hopefully, not everything ends with a lot of happiness and things can become tragic. But because the movie was presented in this way, napabaliktad, parang you can also come away how Aaron felt. Oh shit! It's
absolutely it's incredible insight.
It's a bit of
oh shit!
A bit of a Rorschach test. That is that the word? Rorschach, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree because I think that's exactly what he wanted was for people to be like, wow, the ending was horrifying, and for people to be like, wow, it ended on a high note. You know what I mean? Like it really means different things for different people. Like that's really, I think that's how it was supposed to be received. Like how he wanted it to be. To have
for me,
people
it was the very last sequence which is reminiscent of 2001, the Stargate sequence, where a lot of like colors are going through time kind of thing. But in Irreversible, it was like this strobing light. And before that was like a zoom in into Monica Bellucci's stomach, and then there's the part where like the camera is like going around, and then you start to see the strobing light and this like really unnerving sound with the strobe lights, and like behind the strobe lights there's this like abstract spinning thing, and that made me feel it made me feel so uneasy. It made me feel scared. It's like, you know, the THX theme song. Drone. It's like exactly, that freaks me out. Like I don't know what it is. It's just like visceral feeling. The parang like, is something gonna happen? Like it feels so unsafe. And initially, like, you know, if it weren't for that scene, like maybe I'd feel the same way as Aaron. It's just like, like I can leave the cinema or I can close my laptop not feeling too bad. But because of that strobe sequence, I feel really uneasy and it just blacks out like to that title card. And then so that's why for me, like towards the end, I felt uneasy because like physically auditorially. Was that the word?
Sure.
How you perceive
How you
sound.
hear.
There was like a visceral feeling for me that
It's
made
really
me feel
an
uneasy.
assault on all assault. Wow. Okay.
You know how Uncut Gems was totally you're just uncomfortable
Tense.
all throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Parang-
you can't relax.
Parang biglang, oh shit, parang in my mind, that was like a genre in its own, like Uncut Gems, like that whole unnerving. But parang, oh shit, parang Irreversible was doing that in 2002. Parang, it was like, it's jarring, it's an audio visual experience,
Yeah.
especially the first half. Parang, back to that face bashing scene in the gay club. Parang that could have been the fucking second rape, ha? Parang, di ba that was he was also about to be raped. Vincent Cassel's character was about to be raped in that scene also, but his friend just came by and with a fire extinguisher and smashed the other guys. But wow, this movie's really... So that was my problem with the film in the beginning, na parang I couldn't get over how hateful it was. Or at least perceived hatefulness.
Nihilistic.
Towards gays or even towards women. Parang mapapaisip ko talaga, like, does this director hate everybody who's not a straight male? But at the same time, I can't make any value judgment pa rin. But as the movie progressed backwards, parang everything got kind of balanced out, or you're given a reason for why you're given a non-reason for why things happen. And nag-soften yung stance.
There's so much you can talk about, especially like about sexuality. Because like si Latenia, the rapist, he's gay. And he rapes a woman.
Easy.
And it's like...
In the ass. Yeah.
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 And like, you know,
He could be bisexual.
So shocking.
Or
he could be bisexual,
yes.
That's true.
But he's a very depraved person. Like, the fact that his name is Tenya, like, which means tapeworm, is so disgusting.
Yes.
It's so gross. And I don't know, I feel like he was a vehicle to explore, well, actually everyone, except maybe Monica Bellucci, who resembles this kind of like more angelic, graceful figure of femininity. Like, like everyone, all the men in this movie were like expressing certain primal urges and impulses, which is, I think, a really strong theme that cuts across the movie. There's something about sex, there's something about pleasure, violence, revenge, self-preservation, and it's only towards the end where you get this feeling of like love. And I thought Gaspar weaved all of that together really well. This exploration of like primal urges and how it's like the death drive, Sigmund Freud, where like everything that we do ultimately leads to our destruction. And that's like the ultimate message of the movie, right? Like time destroys everything. So that's it's
everything is predestined. Because she was talking about dreams and how like, and that's why dreams are premonitions of things that happen, because everything's predestined. She says that in the elevator scene. So it comes back like at the beginning when you're like, oh, it's so happy and so hopeful, but her fate was already predestined. We actually knew what happened to her, you know, at the beginning of the film.
Well, there were the premonitions were interesting because towards the end she would talk about, first of all she talked about her dream, saying that like this tunnel cut in two, which obviously symbolized how she was going to die later on. But there was a scene where she was talking about in the train scene where they were talking about their sex lives, and she was saying na parang, talking to her ex, saying like, if you're thinking about your own pleasure, if you're thinking about your partner's pleasure, you're gonna freeze. You have to think about your own pleasure first in order for the sex to be good, something along those lines. And that really fucks her over in the end, because the guy that rapes her is doing it for his own self-serving. And it's ironic in that way. Parang justice doesn't get served. And there were these premonitions that they were saying beforehand that totally like becomes her downfall, which I find really interesting. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. She predicted her own. She dreamt about her own tunnel experience. Even the character of Vincent Cassel, parang, diba, he's an asshole. He's a coked up addict and a bit of he's bad to Monica Bellucci's character. He's like making out with other women at the party. But in that scene at home, that domestic scene in bed, and when it's revealed na he's possibly a dad, but he was genuinely happy. Like, you know, he wasn't the type of guy who said, "Oh shit, I'm not ready." You know, he didn't go that way. He went the other way and said he was happy to be a potential father. So parang nag-soften talaga yung. I guess that was Noe's way of softening it, making you see these people in a different light before things go to shit. But yeah, sorry, I don't know where she's gonna go with that. But it was just like it made things more. It made things kind of more painful for me. Yeah.
I have a question. Sai, have you seen all his movies?
I haven't seen his latest one, which is called Vortex, which features Dario Argento and this other guy. It's about like growing old. I think like Gaspar's probably matured a lot, especially now. Apparently, he almost died like recently. He was like in the hospital with some brain hemorrhage or something, and then that inspired him to make his latest movie. But I believe I've seen I Stand Alone. I've seen Irreversible. I've seen Enter the Void. I've seen Love.
Climax.
I've seen Climax. And Vortex I have yet to see. So yeah, I feel like I've seen most of his films.
I've only seen Irreversible, Enter the Void, and Love of Climax. I'm not sure, but like, having seen all of his stuff, is Irreversible like the most the least crazy?
Yeah,
it's
the least
like,
crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, this movie is already insane stylistically, but like Enter the Void is fucking wacko. And then like, you know what I mean?
Love is real.
Yeah, Love is real sex and stuff. Like, so for me, like, this is like him being restrained. Like, he's restrained already. For me, having seen Enter the Void as a fucking vagina cam. A camera inside a vagina while a dick is like hitting it.
No. Enter the Void is like a long, arduous journey. You know, parang if Irreversible is like an hour and 40. So it's very, very doable, even though there's a lot that happens in that condensed chunk of time. Enter the Void, I think, is 2.5 hours. And there's a lot, it's also an assault in your senses
the colors, and
it's like you're basically
flying and
it's like you're in a drug trip basically, and in that sense it's an assault in your senses in that way. But I feel like it's I don't know if it's crazy. If it's a toned down version of Enter the Void, because I think they're trying to achieve very similar goals in different ways. I feel like Irreversible had a stronger effect on me because of. Well, I personally think Irreversible is a bit better than Enter the Void, and maybe that's why.
Absolutely, for me, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Gaspar, but I like this movie is fucking incredible for me. Like, it's incredible, incredible.
Yeah.
But
like the crafting is very
the crafting.
It's contained.
It's so hard
it's
to
not
watch.
excessive. It's hard to watch, but it's really well crafted. Whereas Enter the Void could be a little bit I think he was indulging
it's so
a little
extra.
bit.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. It's so extra. Enter the Void is just like fucking everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I want to repeat that. Okay, really, there is a vagina cam. Like, the point of view inside the vagina is crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, dude, just look it up. It's fucking insane. Like, there's a sex scene, and then Enter the Void. There's a sex scene, and then suddenly he cuts to the point of view of a vagina with the dick going in and out and ejaculating into the camera, by the way.
Kaya pala Enter the Void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so strange for me to actually say the words. I think that Irreversible is actually
the tamer
restrained version of Gaspar.
Yeah. It's Gaspar
by
light
itself. That's what I'm trying to say.
Like disciplining himself, like, guys, let's not go overboard. Huh?
That's what I'm trying to say. That's exactly
Gaspar.
what I'm trying to say.
Gaspar Zero.
Guys, I'm more mature now. This movie's gonna be about the story.
No, this is one of his earlier works.
Okay.
Then he's just like, no, I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
No, not crazy, but like, he's a true artist, obviously. Like, It was very difficult to watch. Very difficult to watch.
Like I said, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it.
Man, Aaron
it's
sent
not
so
a
many video messages today of just her screaming and saying I hate it.
In the beginning, in the gay bar scene,
Yeah,
I was
that was super hard.
Dun pa
Yeah.
lang I was like, nahihilo na ako, guys. And then the face bashing, and then so many. I just sent so many videos.
She was like, ang tagal pa nito.
Wait,
Yeah, ang haba pa.
Ang haba pa.
you know what
You
made the
guys should do a
first...
supercut of all of it.
Or there should be an edit of this movie where it's chronological. Ang daya. But it takes away... I'd be so mad if I were the director. But I was saying, this movie, the first 10 minutes of this movie was extra confusing for me because I couldn't get the subtitles to sync. So I'm like,
Oh no!
So like, what's going on?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So when it's French, so I couldn't match it. So I was like, there'd be some words where you recognize Pierre, and then the subtitle, oh shit, parang, and that's when I had to stop and then figure out the subtitle situation, and then I get it now. Like,
Miguel, it's so funny. I think you had the same problem when we were watching Troll Hunter.
yeah.
Syncing the subs to the...
Yeah. Pero at least for at least for Irreversible, they had more options for the correct sub to file. Yung Troll Hunter wala eh. Just play what you get, and then I had to
Isa lang, yeah, exactly.
and then I had to Google how to
speed,
how to speed up or delay
speed up or
subs.
slow down. Yeah.
Pero
Same.
for Irreversible, nahanap ko naman yung
Yeah.
After 15 minutes, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm understanding this. I know this movie's backwards, but it shouldn't be this confusing. And then I found my subs.
I believe they made in 2019. I believe Gaspar
Chronological
did the chronological cut.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm interested to see that, honestly.
Why?
Yeah.
It'll end with those images in your head.
It's time na daw.
It's
It's
okay. I
time.
already have those images in my head.
What if, because
And then
if
the
we see
last
it naman in
image, you're
chronological
gonna
order,
leave the last image. Dude, the last image you're gonna get is two old
Are those
men
two guys?
touching
Yeah.
themselves. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
that's what you want to
Yep.
leave with? Really?
Yep.
That's you want to
And then- and then we're gonna-
that.
And then we're gonna feel better about it because in the beginning,
Sabi ni
we saw that
Direct,
they-
sorry.
yeah.
I think Miguel's subtitles are out of sync.
They are. Sorry.
The audio is not in sync.
I sent a message to the
Yes, we
chat.
can see that your internet is choppy. It made
My
the
bad.
conversation much more fun.
Yeah. And we're back.
Just go on without me.
My gosh. But what were we talking about?
happened.
See, I forgot na rin. You were talking about the... Yeah, we from what I remember, you wanted to see it in chronological order.
Yes.
Yeah, and we were talking about that. Yeah.
I am interested in seeing it. I'm not sure if I want to, but parang as an experiment, siguro, it would be very interesting to watch it in chronological order. It would be really depressing, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if
super
I can do that again ever, I think. Ever.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
think
a lot.
like maybe in another 10 years. It was like 10 or 12 years since I saw this the first time, and parang it is still so fucking difficult. It's so hard. It's so hard to watch. That rape scene, dude. I think it was even more shocking watching it the second time, if that's even possible.
No, I felt the same way. When I watched it last year because I wanted to introduce it to a friend, and we watched it like.
Are you
through
guys still friends?
Discord. We are still friends.
Oh, okay,
And actually, I watched this film with all the people I dated. It was almost like, can you please watch this? And it
Is
was
that
their
your
first
like
time.
your test? You're like, if
Maybe
you can
it
get
is.
through this.
It is one of my favorite movies. So parang it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
whether you like it or not. But
Yeah.
So yeah, like I watched it. I think that was the third time last year when I saw this again, and the third time's a charm. It really fucked me up the third time around. Like it was in my head. Like I was thinking about it. I got a little like I got anxiety from it because I was just like really deep in the hole thinking about this film. So it's totally possible to feel that way on your third viewing, I think.
Damn.
You know, it's so interesting. I noticed watching it the second time during the rape scene. He keeps a lot of his anger is because she's rich or she's dressed rich. Because he keeps like kicking her and calling her rich bitch, or like he just keeps talking about how rich she is. Grabe. I don't know. It just really struck me. Like he kept screaming at her about her being rich.
I read this article, like a retrospective on Irreversible, and it kind of touched on that, touching on this whole primal urge masculinity thing about wanting to acquire status. And there's a lot of, I guess there's a lot of that where you go to these really depraved areas of Paris, and Monica Bellucci looks really glamorous and she looks rich, I suppose. And I guess like that could be touching on like this desire for status and again this primal urge of wanting power, and I mean like power and status go hand in hand. So there's a lot of power in that, a lot of male dominance. So yeah, I think it's part and parcel with what Gaspar wanted to explore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was
so graphic, man. So graphic. And when you said long, I was expecting it to be long. But this was like long.
Yeah.
As in, TikTok na lang, man. I'll just watch some people dance muna while the scene's going on. I can't. It's a lot.
Aaron, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So what do you think is like how far are films allowed to take you? How far can films take you to challenge you in that way? Like, because one could argue na parang, like, there's so much violence in films, but we tolerate it anyway. But for me, kasi the rape scene, I thought the length was like totally necessary. I don't think they could have done it in like the Hollywoodized way where they do like very smart cuts and then towards the end it's like implied that she was raped. But the fact that the camera is just in one place and it goes for, I think I timed it kasi the penetration scene happens for about 6 minutes. But the whole scene itself is around like 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And 6 minutes is like, I don't know, like a short YouTube video, really. So what do you think, like how far can films take us to challenge us? What are your boundaries? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, that's very interesting because it's definitely a personal preference for me. That's why I did not like it. But when it comes to making art and stuff like that, you can't really put a boundary on what the artist wants to do. He's gonna do whatever he wants. You know what I mean? And I feel that way about things like Nymphomaniac. For me, when I saw that, I was like, why did you bring me to this fucking movie, man? I don't want to see this shit. So,
can I take a guess who invited you?
Of course, the one person who would think to bring me to something like that. Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Called it.
Of course.
Called it.
At the theater pa. So I was just like, you can't leave. Alam mo yun, you can't leave because it's the theater. But anyway, yeah. So artistically, since everything is fake, no one's getting hurt in real life, do your shit. But as a personal preference for me, there are some things that I don't really want to see. And that is one of it. That's just something that I feel is so intense. Too much of something for me is I can't handle if it's too much of something. But again, it's just a personal preference for me. Artists, do whatever you want because we know that you want to elicit certain emotions from people. That's exactly what you're going for, and I get the message. But yun lang. It's hard.
This film belongs in this canon of movies like extreme cinema, and I think the other ones that belong in this genre. Well, there were other films that I wanted to choose for this podcast. One of them was Possession, which I watched last year, and I'm still coming to grips as to what it was really trying to say. It's a Polish film, but it's in an English language, and it's just like I can't even tell you the plot because it's basically it's basically like this wife and husband whose marriage is falling apart, but it's so much more than that. And the movie's called Possession, and there's actually a possession, but not in like the demonio kind, but also kind of in the demonio way. It's like a exploration of the word possession, whether whether that's by love or by whatever. And that's really gory. It's really graphic. Another one is Martyrs, which...
Oh my fucking God.
Horrible.
First of all, Miguel and Aaron, thank Sai right now that she gave us Irreversible and not Martyrs.
Okay, thank you.
That is the most fucked up movie I have ever seen.
What year is Martyrs from? I'm Googling it.
It's like mid 2000s or late
also.
2000s?
2008.
maybe?
2008, here it is.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That movie is fucked up.
Oh, really?
And so,
Talk about
like,
movies where there's no hope. That's the one.
Holy
shit. So I considered that. I considered Possession, and then the last one that I
I
considered,
don't think
which
I
also
could. I don't think I
belongs-
could have watched Martyrs again. Honestly,
Same. It's really bad. It's actually, Irreversible is probably a little bit more tolerable. I've only seen Martyrs once. I've yet to see it a second time. But anyway, so the third one that I was considering was Jacob's Ladder, and
fuck.
it's about
70s, right?
Vietnam vet, who kind of loses his mind without giving away too much of the plot. So like I think those belong in like the same canon of films as Irreversible, which is like really extreme, really gory, really. It's like, and it's also like not horror, like to the traditional horror. Maybe with the exception of Martyrs and Possession, maybe Jacob's Ladder and Irreversible have this more ambiguous
label.
Label in terms of like whether it's horror or not. But
that's a
they
perfect
belong in the
segue.
same group. Yeah.
That's a perfect segue. You started off saying that maybe we should eventually talk about whether this is horror or not and what our definitions of horror is.
Yeah.
Early on, we had this conversation early on in the beginning of this podcast about like how would you define horror? Like we had people come on, actually a number of people came on and said that it's only horror if it's supernatural.
Oh, interesting.
A number. For me, I don't know if I share it with you guys, but for me, my definition is whatever horrifies you is horror. So going by that definition, Irreversible is 100%
Oh my
under
God. 11
horror.
over 10. Parang my rating for Monica Bellucci.
Exactly.
That's horrifying. 11 over 10.
How about you guys? What do you think?
I mean, yes, I agree. This is actually the type of horror that I wouldn't recommend to my friends because it's so scary. Like, guys, you want to get scared? What? Possession? What? Omen? Fuck that shit. You know what you did last summer? Now watch this. You want to get scared? You want nightmares? That's how horrifying I find this movie. Like, I would wish it on my enemies. I'd message it to my ex.
Not people you date.
No. Like to an ex, I'll just send the Google Drive with a movie. I'll be like, hey, reminded me of you or something stupid like that.
Sobrang mindfuck yun. Like parang, what did she mean by that?
What
What does she mean? Like, which person?
Tapos, they just
Which
reply to you.
relationship?
Question mark.
Yeah, diba? Thought of you while watching this. Mga ganyan. Thinking of you. Irreversible. There you go.
How about you,
How about you,
Miguel?
Miguel?
I'm curious.
If this is horror, parang I'm
Yeah,
kind
this is horror.
of, since that whole genre is kind of, new to me, or at least parang a genre I don't explore often. Parang I'm kind of okay naman with the definition na anything that horrifies you should be horror, could be horror. It doesn't have to be, it can be supernatural, it can be just psychological. Okay lang naman. So, but this thing, like, totoo naman eh, like at certain points in this movie, it was horrifying. But it didn't scare me the same way a supernatural horror would. I'm not saying it's not horror. I'm just saying this has a different effect on me than, like I can go to sleep tonight and not wonder if there's something in the corner.
Because you aren't a woman, Miguel. You don't know our struggles.
Yeah. So, sorry. So,
Yes.
exact. No, that's real.
For sure.
So I was gonna say, so which leads me to my question about the rape scene. Because as a guy, parang my framing of that, wow, I guess this is really feels like Monica Bellucci is so good acting in this scene, and you can really see.
Dude, she's incredible.
You can see the violation in her face, the horror she's experiencing. You can see it in her face. She's so good at this. You can see it in her body's, in her movement, in the way she acted. But that's me as a guy talking. Like, so I don't know how women.
It can't. Yeah.
Will they see this scene and say, "Galing nito as a piece of cinema"? Syempre, I don't know. I was wondering about that. So.
Yeah.
So what goes through the minds of me, at least personally, what went through my mind was, fuck, what would I do? I put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
How would I fight? And then you see that she fought so hard and you're like, fuck, I'm probably as weak as this girl. Like, that's what went through my mind, because it's like, this is an absolute 100% possibility.
Nightmare, yeah.
So that's why it's super scary. Yeah. Like, do I need to see this unfold? I already know it can happen. Must I have the visuals? Parang ganon. That's what went through my head.
You know what's worse about that scene, pa? It's not technically a dark, out of the way place. It's like part of the city. In fact, there was a scene where a guy walked in and just walked away.
Oh, my God. That was.
Di ba, parang a guy came in, saw what was happening, had the chance to stop it, but just left. So that actually
and the girl told her it was safer. Diba?
Yeah.
The girl told her it was safer. It's safer to go down.
Yes. Yeah, it's safer.
Yeah.
So
that's really the irreversible point, right? It was really that girl who was like, because she was hailing a taxi already. Like Monica was hailing a taxi. And then the girl was like, oh, just take the underpass. It's safer. Safer pa yung ginamit na word niya.
Right.
So that was really like the point where,
And dahil kapwa babae nagsabi, you take her word for it.
Yeah.
She would know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Going back to what you were saying earlier now about how good Monica Bellucci was in this movie, obviously that whole scene was really so difficult to watch. But like, even her body acting is so incredible.
Yeah.
Like at the end, when he kicks her face for the first time, like I thought it looked so real. Yeah. Like she snaps her head back so quickly and like on cue. And at that point, the scene had been going for 6 minutes already or something, 7 minutes. And she was like so on point, like, I don't know, like incredible.
So good.
Real physical acting yun, parang I think almost athletic na yung, you know, the effort she put into that. Like to be able to act that way pa nga at the end of a 6-minute rape scene. Parang, I mean, you know, but we're just talking about it in terms of craft, like galing ni Monica, but I don't know nga how to frame this or gauge this from other perspectives.
Exactly.
But you can even just say you can even be condescending and say maganda siya, and I liked her in it because maganda siya. But I liked her in it because she was really good. Like
she was amazing
in every scene she was in. Parang dalang-dala niya yung role, and I don't know, it's just really good.
11 over 10.
11 over 10. Totally agree.
So I think we've come to the point where we can actually say our final thoughts on the film, one by one. Of course, ending with Sai.
Yeah.
I'd like to start. I hate it. 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 I hate it so much.
Yeah.
All the scenes where I hate it. I hate it. But is it a bad film? No, it is not. It is not a bad film at all. It's very well made. But I hate it. Next.
I'll go. Mine's really short.
Oh, damn.
Mine's really short.
Okay.
Absolutely incredible movie, but I don't think I'm ever gonna watch it again.
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I want to say.
For real.
Second time, that's it. I think that's my limit. But incredible movie.
You know how I always change my opinion as we talk about a movie?
Yes.
Except for Misery. Yeah.
Like it's always like even in movies that I'm cool on in the beginning, the more we talk about it, the more I say, that wasn't. So that's how I feel about. Like I have totally mixed feelings about Irreversible. Like, was it gratuitous? Maybe. Was it necessary? I don't know. Was it good? Yes and no. I think it's a great movie. And then now that we've talked about it again, parang I'm not opposed to seeing it for a second time and wondering if I'll see something new that will make me feel something different. You know, it might be one of those movies na on multiple viewings, kung kaya mo parang there might be something new to glean away from it. There might be something new to glean from it from multiple viewings, and that's for me, that's a hallmark of a good movie. Na parang every time you watch it, parang puta galing nito, or shit, di ko napansin dati, or and I don't. So I'm saying my last word on it is that I don't know. Like I don't know if I want to. Like I think I like it a lot. I understand why it's a top 3 movie of Sai or 2 pa nga. I can understand why it can be that way to a person. I don't know if I want to watch it, but I can go either way. Like I can watch this again in a setting with, parang Sai, if I meet up with Sai in real life, parang, hey, you should watch Irreversible. Sige, let's watch it. Diba? Parang pwede. But at the same time, if I'm alone and like having a bad day, will I watch Irreversible? Maybe not. Like,
oh my God, never.
So,
lakas talaga ng pull ni Monica.
Yeah, dude, for real.
I think that's what it is, Miguel.
Well, sure. But also the craft.
Totoo naman.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a movie that I'll think about, but not in a way na usual horror movies will live rent free in my mind and just scare the fuck out of me. This movie's like something I'll think about for a while in a good way.
And I want to delete it from my brain already. Except the hot Monica
I totally
scenes.
understand that too.
Diba? Parang delete
you should watch what's that movie with Adam Sandberg recently? Palm Springs.
Oh, I've seen that. I love that movie.
I love that movie. Yeah. Anyway,
wait, where did that come from?
Time loop.
Okay.
And then feel good. My drugs.
I know. I was like, was she in that?
It's just
did Gaspar direct that movie?
No. When I was just thinking of a movie that will make me feel the opposite of Irreversible. Maybe Palm Springs.
Gets.
Sure.
Or I'll just watch Jackass. That will be the complete opposite, diba? Jackass. Talagang, alright, yeah. Impractical Jokers, yeah. And really just, woo. So, Sai.
Sai naman.
Yeah, Sai.
My last words on this film. Going back to what Miguel said about like learning about something new or noticing something new after each viewing. During this last viewing, which I had yesterday was Sunday. Yes, it was. And I was reading an article about it. Parang there was an interpretation in the end, like the strobing lights. They argued that could be Monica in a coma looking back at the memories, and it plays on this idea of time going forwards and backwards, and so maybe that was Monica reliving those moments, or and then my friend brought up how does it account for the fact that for the scenes that where Monica wasn't there, and maybe it's an extension of Enter the Void where she becomes like she's like wandering through the streets of Paris, like
exactly,
because there are these like really weird camera movements. But anyway, I mean, like Miguel is right. Like even after this is my 4th viewing now, like I'm still learning so much about this film that I didn't notice, and I've seen every interview, I've seen every consumable media about this film, and it still like really fascinates me. It touches on so many topics. It's crafted so well, and it's a work of art. It's like it's one of my favorite films, and if you want to watch one of my favorite films, like this is gonna be one of the first I'm going to recommend. So I highly recommend it to anyone. And good luck na lang sa inyo pag pinood niyo. Good luck.
Yes. And thank you so much, because I would have never watched this movie if it wasn't for your choice. So I hope you listeners enjoyed this episode. Watch at your own risk. Watch at your own. Well, we spoiled the entire thing, but watch it. Watch it if you want. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, before we end, please check out the description of this episode and use the affiliate links that we have. Check out also, we'll put in Sai's details over here in the description of the episode. Sai, is there anything that you want to promote?
I have a show on Manila Community Radio every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. I'm on hiatus at the moment, but I'm returning actually on Halloween this Sunday, where I'm going to have a Sounds of Suspense special, and it's just soundtracks from very suspenseful films. So if you guys want to tune in on
any John
Sunday,
Carpenter stuff?
Yes, there is actually. there will be a John Carpenter track there. So I'm going to be playing that on the 31st of October 2021. If you're seeing this later than that, then it'll be available on playback on mixcloud.com/Manila Community Radio. But usually my shows are every Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. And you can catch me on Instagram, sai.versailles.
Hey.
And yeah, I write journalism, I DJ sometimes, so you can just catch me there.
All
Thanks so
right,
much,
thank you
Sai.
so much. Thank you. And I hope everybody enjoy this episode and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Brought to you by Big Baby Studios.